Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. We'll just give it a couple of minutes for people to come on in before we kick off the webinar. Welcome. We have a few people rolling in today. Hope you're having a great morning so far. Right, so I think it's time to kick off. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to have you here. My name is Melinda, and I'm Go1 Senior Customer Success Manager. At Go1, we aim to unlock the power of human potential through a love of learning. And that means helping people just like you understand how to choose a learning management system for your organization. The right LMS can be the difference between boosting your ROI and attracting top talent or losing leading employees to your competitors. Research shows us that 72% of organizations gain a competitive advantage when they implement an LMS. It's why we created an ebook called The Ultimate Guide to Choosing the Right Learning Platform for Your Business. And it outlines everything you need to know to transform learning at your organization. So feel free to open up your phones, download the ebook from the QR code on the slide, and we'll also pop it into the chat. So you've got it there as well. The ebook has plenty of tips and tricks to simplify the process of choosing an LMS. So whether you're a CEO, HR manager, or L&D leader, and if you're unsure where to start, whether you're researching and need help navigating each step, or whether you want to understand how to maximize use or upgrade your LMS, this guide is for you. It's also why we've assembled a fantastic cast today to give you some firsthand experience and insight into the process. I'll be asking them lots of questions to get all of their tips, tricks, and hurdles that they use to navigate the purchasing decision and how they found the implementation process. So a very warm welcome to our panelists today. Ange Jip, Enabling Lead at Chorus, Luke Barnes, APAC Partnerships Director at Go1, and Olivia Tsen, Development, Performance and Inclusion Group Lead at Hassel Studio. Thank you all so much for joining us. It'd be great if we can kick off with a quick round of introductions to share with the audience a little bit more about yourselves and your experience. Ange, we'll start with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ange. I work for Chorus. We're an in-home services disability provider in Western Australia. I work in the enabling team. I guess the equivalent to that is a back office, if you like. We look to simplify and enable our frontline team so they can support more people in our community. Thanks.
Luke.
Thanks for that. So I'm a Director of Partner Success at Go1. I've worked for Go1 since its very inception and been working with kind of HR and L&D leaders for the last decade. Particularly excited about the Go1 partner ecosystem and how we can kind of get the most out of that partner ecosystem to work with clients like we have here on the call. For that 10 years, I've worked across every function of the Go1 business and opened offices up across the globe, but really excited now to be back in Australia and really focusing in on what we can do in the APAC region.
And Olivia?
Linda, for having me, and welcome everyone. My background is in both consulting and HR leadership roles. In my current role at Hassel, I've been fortunate enough to have the privilege of implementing Go1 as our chosen LMS, and really excited to share some of the lessons that I've learned through the process.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. There's so much experience across this group. So keen to get started. For the central part of this session, we'll be asking our panel a bunch of questions about how they navigated learning pathways and what the process, challenges and experiences looked like for them. We'll then dedicate some time to answering any questions that you have before a short wrap up. So if you do have any questions, please type them into the chat as we go along and we'll address them at the Q&A at the end. So let's get started. We know that an LMS can have immense value for organizations. One of the key stats that stood out to me when reading the Buyer's Guide ebook was that 56% of employees say that career growth and opportunity via workplace learning is more important than salary. So we'd love to understand from each of you as we get started, through a quick poll in the audience to understand where you and your organisation are at in the learning journey. So I'll just launch a quick poll now to get a bit of a sense check. So that should pop up on your screen there. Just give you a couple of seconds to quickly read through those questions. Fantastic. Some responses filtering in now. Give it 5 more seconds. Fantastic. So we'll just share the results with you all. So quite interesting to see a bit of a mixed bag in the audience today. I'd say just a little bit more than half already have a learning platform and also looking to purchase or update a new platform. None of you have a roadmap laid out yet for the purchasing decision. So I think this will be really valuable and insightful to sort of start thinking about some of the things to build out that roadmap as we move forward. Fantastic. So we'll kick off our first question for the panel today. Olivia, we'll start with you. Why was learning a business priority for you and your organisation, and what prompted you or the organisation to start on the journey?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Melinda. So at Hassel, we're an architecture and design company, and so innovation, creativity, and keeping up to date with all the latest trends, sustainability, being compliant. We have a lot of learning and knowledge sharing needs, and actually purposeful learning is at the core of our strategy and our culture. So one thing that I was very keen to work on straight away when I joined the company about 2 years ago now, actually, I'm losing track of time, was to make sure that we had the best-in-class learning platform and solutions to support our best-in-class work. So for us, it was a huge priority, and I'm really pleased that the business got behind and supported the implementation of a new system.
Yeah, that's incredible. Love the best-in-class aspect and messaging around that. And Ange, how about you? Why was learning a business priority for you and the organisation?
We already had an LMS, but we were finding it wasn't particularly flexible. It was very, very hierarchical in its structure, and that's quite different from our organisation. We want anyone that joins the organisation to be able to choose not only to complete any mandatory elements, but also what kind of pathways they're interested in. So the new LMS that we had now allows that sort of flexibility, so people can lean into something they're interested in and passionate about, as well as completing things that are mandatory.
Yeah, fantastic. Definitely great to have that flexibility and choice there, so people use it in interesting ways to develop themselves.
Sorry, Melinda, I'm just going to, and sorry to everybody, I've got a fire drill happening in the background for me. So I have disappeared, but I'm just letting you know I might have to disappear again. Sorry.
No problem. We'll excuse you if that's the case. Let you get out of there.
I think it's just a drill.
Maybe. Funny.
Well, good. Thanks for that, Ange. So I guess now when setting out on a LMS buying journey, the first and most important step is to ask yourself really one simple question: why? What do you hope to achieve by purchasing an LMS? And this answer will then help to inform subsequent decisions you make throughout the buying process and will help you set clear, actionable goals. Luke, keen to hear from you. You've worked with many different organisations as they research the need for an LMS. What do you think are some of the main reasons or goals behind the decision to introduce an LMS within an organisation?
Yeah, so I think one of the main things I've heard, especially recently, is how do we do more with less? And so kind of bringing in that LMS allows to take things that might have been physical or had other kind of limitations to resources and doing it to something that's digital, in demand, and allows you to do it at scale. So it's really a resource management type of thing. And then kind of to the next layer of it, it allows not just kind of better, efficient use of resources, but being able to do things that would be impossible in kind of a more physical environment. So those are some of the kind of core reasons. And then kind of a given is then tracking, reporting, and all the background of it.
Yeah, fantastic. And Olivia, how about from your perspective, how did your goals define the business case you put forward internally?
We have multiple problems or opportunities that we're really trying to solve through LMS. So we've got quite a dispersed set of studios and workforce. So we've got, people in China, US and London. And so being able to provide asynchronous knowledge sharing and have it in local language and, with UK-based things and Australian-based content and things like that was really important for us. And we wanted to empower people to be able to access that content whenever they liked and to not have to wait to be, register into something or get some budget to be able to access leadership content and to be able to upload our own bespoke information, which is super important as our competitive advantage is around our unique design process and design outcomes and project work. So being able to store that on there as well as access the best practice content was super important. And to be honest, I don't have a lot of stuff. I've got me. I need a solution that could take the place of a learning content curator or someone that was facilitating learning content, because I don't have heaps of resources. So having the stuff that's already there and just being able to bring in what was most important and relevant to our people and direct them to it was critical for us to get efficiency from that. So what you said, Luke, about doing less with more was certainly part of the case, but also just making learning much more accessible and democratizing all of that information for people.
Yeah, really interesting insights there. And I guess once goals are established, then getting stakeholder buy-in is super important. As we know, buying an LMS has far-reaching impact on everyone in the organisation across different countries, from employees to managers, all the way up to the C-suite. So engaging stakeholders early in the purchasing process is important to secure buy-in and ensure everyone's on the same page. And would love to hear from you if you have any key tips for engaging organisational stakeholders and if you had any challenges that you faced along the way.
Yeah, I think for us, our model is largely our workforce is in the community. So most of the time they're accessing learning from their mobile device. They're not coming into an office every day. And so it's really important that that LMS is responsive on a mobile and that you could access and play content. It didn't require you to have a laptop, didn't require necessarily to have access to desktop. And because of that, we really wanted them to be involved from the beginning. We had an experience where the previous relationship with the LMS was very tick and flick, I guess. And so we wanted people to feel engaged and excited and choosing to log on to that LMS because they wanted to see what was there rather than, oh, I need to do this again. So it's really kind of getting that enthusiasm and excitement about something that's new. And because similar to Olivia's comment, we actually don't have somebody that is a learning specialist at Chorus. So we needed something, a platform that could allow us to either create bespoke content and upload that easily, but also in our case, our LMS allows our team members to generate video content and upload it themselves. So that's a little bit like YouTube, it sort of gives them that sort of social learning, learning from each other. And we just found having them involved from the get-go really made that exciting for them. And I guess understanding that learning sits across our organisation. So don't ignore your IT people, don't ignore your, your finance teams, everybody will be involved in learning at some point. It's really great to have that touch point from the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. And Olivia, keen to understand from you sort of what your engagement strategies were with internal stakeholders and learnings that you had trying to get that buy-in.
What you said, and really resonated with me. I truly believe that learning is something that everyone needs to be involved in, either teaching and or sharing information, and as well as consuming it. So that was definitely part of the consideration in terms of getting stakeholder buy-in, is to know that we have subject matter experts and people that will be potential users of the platform across every team and every level of the organisation, whether it's a senior leader or a grad or a business support person. So really trying to understand what each of those stakeholder groups needed from it, and making sure that the platform that we chose and the content that's available through it is flexible and adaptable enough to be able to meet all their needs. And that is no easy feat. So yes, supplementing that with our own bespoke content, which really resonates with our audience, was super important to make sure that stakeholders felt like they were going to get a lot of value out of the decision that we were going to make.
Yeah, fantastic. And I mean, as you've both said, it's very much about reaching everyone in the organisation. Everyone will be using the system. So to get their feedback and thoughts up front kind of really helps them with the journey thereafter. So I guess now we've set goals, we've gained stakeholder buy-in. The next important step becomes defining kind of what you need. Research by Capterra finds that functionality, reliability, support, and price are the most important factors that influence LMS purchasing decisions. Other factors include the ability to integrate with other systems, mobile capabilities, reporting and analytics, social learning, and ease of use. Luke, in your experience, what are the key features people are looking for when choosing an LMS?
Yeah, so I think that last one, ease of use, is really core to what we hear. It's that ability for people to intuitively be able to get on the system, understand how it works, and get access to the information. Because the goal of the LMS is to democratize learning. And if it's hard to find that learning and the learning that you want and that's personalized to you, then the kind of whole point of it falls down. So the kind of key features, functionalities I hear a lot when choosing an LMS is something that's easy, intuitive to use, and almost guides the learner to what they need to learn. And then kind of the more administrative things in the background that you can set up mandatory pathways or report on things is the good to haves on top of it, but it really needs to be simple and intuitive.
Yeah, fantastic. And that sounds like what Ange was mentioning before around kind of wanting that mobile capability and ease of use. So people kind of working across the community sort of easily access that. And was there anything else on your wish list that we've missed or any other must-haves?
I think for us, we needed a platform that could grow with us as an organisation, including our model, but also to where we might be. So a year and a half ago, we were not an RTO and we're not now, but it is something that we're considering. So I guess really looking at a platform that can do more than what you do now and you're not eliminating, we would personally, it would be slightly traumatized if I was thinking I had to do that again to accommodate, changes that we're doing in the organization now. We deal with very highly sensitive data for our customers, and whilst not a lot of our learning doesn't have that data, we also needed to make sure that our data was going to be kept in Australia. So depending on the industry that you work in, that was just something that was really important to us, and we found that also quite useful because it actually, some people were self-eliminating because that wasn't the option. So it helped us in terms of that, narrowing down the field process.
Yeah, really important points there, especially around data security at the moment. And for our audience, just so you know, in the ebook we mentioned earlier, there is a handy list of questions to help you narrow down your search across topics like functionality, features, support and security, tracking and admin, and pricing and scalability. So that can help you as you approach different vendors around their platforms and what capabilities they have available. Now, I might launch our second poll for the day just to see if some of these themes that we're mentioning are resonating with you and how they fare across our audience today. So I'll launch a quick poll now. You should be able to see that around the main stakeholders and decision makers influencing your decisions. Just give you a couple of seconds to leave the poll. I guess you can just 5 more seconds. Ended there. So again, a bit of a mixed bag, but I'd say probably the majority are interacting with lots of different functions and areas of the business, which is good to see. I think it's important that all of these stakeholders are engaged upfront and early. And obviously they do have kind of their own hats that they wear in terms of the decision-making process. So all of their opinions are quite interesting. Also interesting to see the budget is owned by other people. So we always have to be mindful of who actually holds those purse strings to be able to get them on board and give them the right message in. So I'll stop sharing that for now. So I guess we've got the right people involved, business case has been improved. Then it comes down to really finding the right partner to work with. Olivia, keen to hear from you how you shortlisted potential LMS partners and who was involved in that decision.
Yeah, Melinda, we put together quite a detailed list of requirements based on that stakeholder consultation process, what people needed to put on there in terms of live events, content, and have that sort of flexibility to put different types of media on the platform. So by looking at that really detailed Excel sheet that we put together and then really assessing the vendors using through quite a systematic process and thinking through the 2 parts, because you've obviously got the learning management system for the records, the attendance and compliance kind of reason and the source of truth for all your learning data. But then you've also got content that you need. So looking at those 2 pieces as part of the whole solution and not just one in isolation of the other. I think that was key to meeting everyone's needs.
Yeah, really a systematic approach there, kind of having that holistic view. makes sense. And I mean, it is a big decision, so doing your homework definitely pays off. And a demonstration is usually a key part of the process. I find you want to be able to see what functionality the system has before you go in and buy it. So it's always good to ask vendors to provide that demonstration.
Yeah, actually, I'll give a little plug
for you when evaluating different products. Luke, what? Yeah, definitely tell us more, Olivia.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to just share that, you know, something that was super valuable was the fact that Go1 allowed us to have a demo account for quite a while we tested it out and used it, and just reassured ourselves that we would get good uptake. And then that really just, you know, sealed the deal once we saw what engagement we could get through that demo instance.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, really playing around in the system and testing it out makes a lot of sense. See if it meets your needs. Luke, what would you say are some of the key factors that have influenced our customers' decisions on choosing one LMS over another?
Yeah, so I think it is that ease of use, but also just their own requirements. Like Andrew was saying, some organizations are quite hierarchical and they need a very structured learning management system that goes along with that. Others are very self-driven, and so they need a system where people can easily input their own content and start sharing that content and have more social elements to it. So it really is finding the right system to fit your style of organization and what you're trying to kind of get out of it.
Yeah, definitely. And do you have any sort of other bits of advice or learnings around how you made the decision in the end?
Yeah, so for Chorus, it's quite important that we call it a partnering approach. So that's important that we can partner with the organisation that's delivering our tools and applications in a way that supports how we're growing as an organisation. So it's actually really important to us. We found we put some inquiries out and we got a very salesy kind of response, which kind of, it's a personal kind of irk for me, but you know, there was just a really, I guess, tension then between the way that we operate as an organisation. We're community-based, and we just found that a really important part of, or if we're going to move forward with this organisation, we want them to reflect our values as well. Similar to what Olivia said, it was really important we were able to trial in a sandbox environment the LMS that we were using, which is Docebo. So we used Go1 content, which was available through that platform, and also reference checks. We were lucky to talk to a couple of references that were really open about some of the challenges they found. And challenges I find don't necessarily eliminate doesn't make you eliminate the LMS, but it just gives you that awareness of like what to expect, and it might inform the choices that you make when you're implementing.
Yeah, definitely. So you've chosen an LMS, you know, fantastic. That's sort of a big hurdle to get to that step, to get it across the line within the organization. And then the decision comes around implementing it. And I find this is probably quite a critical piece in setting organizations up for long-term success, to make sure the integrations are set up properly, the users are set up, the right communications go out to the learners. So there's a few pieces involved in that. And you might throw it back to you. What 3 words come to mind that best summarize your experience when you started implementing the learning platform?
I guess test. Okay, I cannot stress enough, like just getting that feedback from people. So testing, getting some feedback and involving people in that early stages. Yeah, I think that's probably by far the biggest thing that we needed and helped us along that journey.
Yeah, such a key point. And Olivia, from your perspective, could you walk us through what your implementation process looks like and thoughts around that?
So for us, getting the platform and the content in a way that would appeal to our designers and architects was super important. So if it looks good, if it's in line with our brand, if it's colorful, if there's some fun content, as well as serious professional content, then we knew that it would be engaging and people would want to go in. So we took an approach that was trying to get people intrigued to go in, making it exciting, fun, explaining how this is like, the Spotify of learning, and you can, these are all the different types of learning you can now access. That was our approach. And then we put compliance second. We really wanted to, although that was an important reason for having a learning platform, we don't want the launch of it to be seen as a compliance training exercise. We wanted people to really get excited about the accessibility of learning and what was on there.
Yeah, fantastic insights. I guess the other part of it is the importance of data and reporting, and the impact that getting the most out of data can have on your learning program. Research shows that 98% of L&D teams say that improving their analytical skills is a priority, and making the most of your LMS's reporting and analytics features is a fantastic way to improve your impact, optimize the learning experience, and stay one step ahead of your competitors. Olivia, keen to understand if you did report on L&D before implementing Go One, and how did you track and measure the ROI to present to leadership?
Yeah, we had lots of spreadsheets, different content everywhere. So it wasn't great when I stepped into it to be able to collate that and try and understand it. So now that we've got it all in one place, I really can see things very easily around people accessing content, who's uploading stuff, and making sure that our new starters have everything that they need for onboarding, which is one of our critical moments. So it's been great for being able to republish things that we did live, and then we sort of uploading a recording. So being able to see who's been able to access things after an event has been quite interesting for me, because it's challenged some of my assumptions around how people like to consume learning, because not everyone has the time to do things in real time, even though that can be more engaging.
Yeah, definitely. And I find that a common thread with some of my customers that I speak with is that reporting and insights can really sort of support an uplift in the organization. You can see where top learners, top teams or departments are within the business, and they can start to be some of your learning champions and pilot groups to get that feedback and then try and replicate it across other parts of the organization. And that's where you can sort of start to build that learning culture as well, which we all know is so important. Ange, keen to hear, how have you been able to embed a learning culture within your organization?
I feel like that's a big question. I guess a big part of it, and some of these themes have come through today, was changing that mindset from it being something that you had to do to something that you chose to do. And a big part of that was being able to find a tool that allowed us to create content ourselves and for users to create content to share, so that it became something that was innate. We did do the big launch, we had donuts and, all the fancy things that you do when you launch products across an organisation, and to build a bit of hype and excitement about that. And I think what we're finding is we are likely to do another relaunch, just to make sure that there is that kind of reminder that there is a tool. I think it's definitely a challenge in the industry that I work in. We talk about remote workforces, but they're not remote from us in that sort of COVID way. They're in a remote from they're always out in the community. So I guess kind of competing for their attention around servicing customers directly, and thinking about ways to bring people into that journey. So we're just looking at relaunching, because it's about 18 months in now. I think one key thing for us is also during that implementation, if you're quite close to the project, there's a whole pile of pain. That's just the reality of any implementation of a tool or application, and being mindful to flip that pain into excitement when you're talking to the end users. So happy to share your frustrations. But when people are asking about it, it was really important for us to go, I can't wait, I'm so exciting, it's going to be a really great tool, I think you're going to love it. And kind of, it doesn't mean you can't share your pain, but just not projecting it out into the user environment. So I found that really helpful. People were actually genuinely interested and excited when they talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess building excitement is such a continuous process that you need to keep front of mind for learning when it is kind of more sort of personal in nature. If it's not mandatory training that you've got a hard deadline, it is about that constant reminder to build adoption and engagement along the way. And Olivia, keen to hear if you have any sort of success stories that you can share since launching your learning program.
Yeah, I think it's a continuous process. You're always trying to strive to get more engagement, build more content and get it out to people. One of the things that worked very successfully for us was for me to find the influencers in the business and people that are respected and admired for their knowledge and experience in the industry, and get them to host masterclasses, do events through the platform, which would draw people in, and then have some follow-up material based on that as the hook. And I found that was a really good way of driving traffic to the site. And then making sure that everything is on there. So instead of putting it on the intranet or in a folder somewhere, or having a recording in Teams folder that's hidden, to make sure it gets onto the platform. So you keep driving people back to, this is where to find stuff. This is how you search for it. And it doesn't matter whether it's a video or an ebook or podcast, you can find it here.
Yeah, amazing. I think, yeah, definitely having that kind of hybrid approach where you might have a virtual or face-to-face kind of masterclass with an expert in the organization, and then linking it back to content, keeping it all in the LMS so you can track on it in the future is always worthwhile to see kind of learners' progress as well. So before we begin the Q&A, I can see some questions coming through, so please keep putting them in. We'll just wrap up this section with a final question to all of our panelists. Where do you think learning is heading in 2024? What new things will emerge, or where will we see a shift? Luke, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think we're continuing to see an acceleration of change. We've had incredible changes over the last 20 years, and we're going to see even more of that change over the next 20 years. And so learning just becomes a pivotal habit that we need to build. And like the style and way in which we learn continues to need to evolve. So previously we spent a lot of time learning upfront in our lives, and then a lot of time learning kind of on the job, anecdotally, through mentorships and other areas. But now more and more there is a really diverse range of pathways, and what someone has done previously isn't necessarily the same thing that you're going to be doing in the same pathway you're going to take. So being able to find your own things and your own pathway through, but being able to learn from what a wide variety of people have done is going to become really important. And we see across the board that engagement is hard. Lots of clients find it hard. Lots of end learners, people just trying to fit learning into their day, find it hard to kind of look and find the right thing. So making learning a real habit, making it really easy to access, really easy to find what you need and take that next thing is kind of the pivotal piece. And so with generative AI and other elements kind of really coming in there to make curation of learning content really personal to you as an individual and be able to drive your own learning, I think that's going to be kind of the future of learning that's going to emerge.
Fantastic. And Ange, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think to add to Luke's comment about AI, I really see there will be an opportunity within an LMS environment for that LMS to generate pathways based on your previous content, that it's going to shape that for you a little bit like our Netflix algorithms and YouTube forever ending up with cat videos. I think we're somehow going to start shaping or being able to shape that for it, so it's a personalized experience. We're also seeing a really huge demand now for really micro learning. So if we do similar to what Olivia talked about, I completely agree, this, proliferation of different learning assets across an organization, and sitting in streams and teams, saved videos and etc. But it isn't simply enough to pick up a recording from Teams and pop it in your LMS. If it's 35 minutes, no one is going to watch that. So it's about finding really efficient ways to break that down into small, 5-minute or topic-based. Again, as I said, in our workforce, it is very mobile-oriented. It's not a great experience doing that for any length of time. So we really are seeing this sort of request for things to be 5-minute chunks that I can, take on and in between breaks. And the reality is people's attention spans are shifting and we need to match the content for that.
Yeah, definitely. And Olivia, your thoughts on where learning's heading?
100% agree with Luke and Angie's comments that similarly, we've got time poor people, they just want something quickly. So I think the trend is a little bit like the social media stuff. People just want to consume something right in the moment that's going to meet their need quickly. And then when they have time, they might dig a little deeper and do some more detailed learning. So I definitely see that as a trend, and accessing that information in the flow of work. So not actually having to put aside special time because, our people are very busy on delivering work for our clients, and having it in different formats that's going to suit the different learner needs, I think is important. And interestingly, there's this thing that I'm still trying to work out, what needs to be really high quality produced content and what can just be a quick and easy video that you can just put together in 2 minutes, and that's actually going to satisfy the need. So it's sort of just working out how much effort and investment you need to make into producing something that's going to meet the learner need. I'm finding that continuum is kind of stretching more broadly than I first imagined.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of where AI could also step in as well to kind of get the key nuggets out of pieces of content or stitch different things together and make it accessible. So super exciting times ahead.
And the amount of people that I've spoken to who say, oh, how did you access this before? How did you know? Oh, I just looked up a quick YouTube video and that was fine. So, people are quite happy with something that's a low cost produced piece of content if it will meet their learning need in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. Right piece of content, right time, personalized to you at your fingertips. Yeah, definitely. So big thank you to our panel so far. We've got a couple of questions in the chat. So Ange, one of the questions is, you recommend testing. Who did you engage throughout the business for the testing process, and what sort of feedback did you receive that changed your implementation?
Good question. So we have local teams. So our organisation is spread across 20 locals across geographical teams. So we had at least a request that went to the locals was to provide a user who was quite comfortable accessing any type of technology and somebody who wasn't. And both those people were then involved in testing the platform. We wanted to understand what that experience looked like from somebody who's quite happy, to Olivia's point, to look up a YouTube video and learn how to do something, versus somebody who felt like they needed really detailed support to access the platform or to navigate through the platform. We also tried to make that as safe as possible for people to give feedback. So we had lots of people within that team. So it wouldn't just be, 2 or 3 people that were in a senior space asking for feedback, where that might create an environment people are less inclined to be honest or be frank, because that's what we really needed. So we really made quite a lot of effort into ensuring that feedback was going to people that they knew. What that helped shape mostly was around what we would do when we actually implemented it, for what kind of guidance people needed. So instead of traditionally there might be a tip sheet, which, you know, depending on your interpretation of a tip sheet might be 1 page or 20. We created video content, and that video content went out. It was the very first thing that you saw when you clicked on the platform itself. It was basically, how do I do this? We also created a little fun video on how to say to Chabo, because it's an unusual word, so we created a bit of fun around that. So I can't recommend enough, like, getting a really broad group to test, including people that had never engaged with their other LMS previously.
Yeah, fantastic, fun insights to share there. And we'll wrap up on this last question, Olivia, around employee engagement. Who were some of your key influencers? What function did they sit in, and what courses did you hero?
Yeah, so being in architecture and design, we have some thought leaders in the business that have got a lot of experience in various sectors, or very innovative in the way that they lead projects. So I did or facilitated some masterclasses with a couple of them, and using our own research and content as the basis for engaging people in that learning, and then having some follow-up modules. Another one which was very popular, where we were able to supplement, was the one on generative AI. It's really fascinating what is happening in our industry, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. But with generative image and all the different kinds of programs and software. So we had an expert from London do something, and we recorded it, and they did a demonstration of in real time, and then we were able to add some of the other content that was available around DALL-E and Midjourney and some of the other cool tools, and really allow people to sort of experiment and explore that further with the content that was available.
Yeah, amazing. That's all we've got time for today. So thank you all so much for joining us, submitting your questions, and obviously to our panelists, Olivia, Luke, and thank you all so much for your time and sharing your expertise with our knowledge, with our audience today. We've covered a lot of grounds, you know, from setting your goals up front, getting stakeholder buy-in, building that business case, and then selecting your partners and going through the implementation journey and building a culture of learning. So there's a lot in there. You can download the ebook to have a bit more of a read through that and get more insights. Please feel free to reach out via email if you're interested to know more or would like to know more about Go One. Again, thank you to our panelists today. Thank you so much, and hope you all enjoy the rest of your afternoon.